Hello, sorry it's been so long. I did record a video, I guess it was last week, and I decided not to publish it. I swore a whole bunch. I was also in bed, not a good angle, just for the vanity in me. And also I ugly cried, like I can't even do the thing. It was like super, super ugly crying. Anyway, so now I'm in a slightly more composed place, and also might, who knows, I'm gonna say might ramble a little less, but have you met me? Not likely. Anyway, so the overarching theme of this particular video is not just going to be kind of where I'm at in my progress, but also it's just a little bit of a report on kind of the state of modern medicine. Broad, I know, just try to stay with me. So I have not been telling you about this other kind of dramatic health thing that's been going on because in my mind I'm thinking almost like you guys are my doctors. And what do you, like, when you go in to talk to your doctor, do you tell them about every little thing? No, you tell them about the one thing. First, because maybe that one thing needs the most attention, but also because if, at least in my experience, if you are perceived as a problem or complex, they kind of like try to either shove you off to a different specialist, or they don't want to spend time with you, or they'll talk to me about the benefits of SSRIs. And don't get me wrong, like, I am somebody with anxiety and that definitely impacts my health. But I don't think, for instance, they blamed all this stuff for a while on me just being like a little wound up. Fun. Gaslighting by the medical industry. Whee! So I'd been trying to find an orthopedist to look at this hip thing because when I sit down or stand up or walk for any length of time, my leg goes numb. And so it's usually just my big toe, but other times it's other toes, and it's actually spread to my right over the past week. And all the things that I used to do to fix it, like strengthening and stretching, I'm still pretty limber, but none of it is helping. And that seems very spiny, doesn't it? Like this one leg and it goes down to like the inside of my big toe, and you look online and it's like, that's lumbar 5, sacral 1. That's kind of where that kind of throws out to. Anyway, so I've been looking for an orthopedist, and I haven't been able to find anybody who is either taking new patients or accepting my insurance. And so I called Dr. Brown up in Baltimore, and he's my sinus guy. He's the guy who I was working with all the Botox, and he's not a surgeon, which is why I ended up having Dr. Lum do my surgery. And Dr. Lum is a vascular surgeon, right? So it's really weird how like the Venn diagram is actually very, very slim. Anyway, so I wanted to go see Dr. Brown because at least he knows me and he has some reference, and he's a physiatrist, right? So like he looks at the interrelations between bones and soft tissue and nerves. And that is something that you should look for. So it's physiatrist, and usually the search will be like, do you mean psychiatrist? And I'm like, I feel personally attacked, but no, not today. I'm not looking for a psychiatrist today. Anyway, but that is somebody, if you are in chronic pain and you feel like it's something musculoskeletal, try to find a physiatrist because it's a bit of an old school training, but it's more holistic than, say, like a bone doctor, a spine doctor, a chiropractor. Anyway, so Dr. Brown couldn't see me because he's super in demand, but he did refer me to one of his colleagues. And he said, can you get up to Baltimore 8 a.m. on whatever the day was? And it was the day before my appointment with Dr. Lum. I said, yeah, sure. So 8 a.m., which means I'm up at 5 a.m., go up there. And so I'm in there with the dual purpose. We're looking at this hip thing, obviously. And he is a spine guy. That Thomas Lee is a spine doctor. But then I've also had this absolutely, debilitating pain, tingling. Now I'm getting like shooting sensations up and down my spine that are kind of right in the same kind of scapular area. Anyway, so actually I'm doing this in reverse order because I actually saw Dr. Lum first. So let me just quick tell you about that. So I go there And I have my cello because I just want him to see my seated posture and just to make sure that the right muscles are powering the right movements and things. Anyway, so I come in and he sees a cello and he's like, wow, what's going on here? And I'm like, I'm going to play you a concert. Like, I have zero fucks to give right now. I was just like, I just want you to look at me doing the thing that apparently triggers the most pain. Anyway, and he said, how are you doing? And I said like a couple of good words about this, because this does continue to feel so much better. Like, I mean, if all of your pain is just here, good grief, have Dr. Love do your surgery. Not much for bedside manner, but like, and this is just much better. So that's great news, right? And then I started saying something about like, but you know that pain in my scapula that we thought the surgery might cure, it's actually gotten worse, and it seems like, and I'm just wondering if maybe because now this is all freed up, maybe things are moving back here, and something that was just causing a little pain, maybe there's disc compression or something. I don't know, because I'm not an expert. Anyway, and he's like, well, how's the incision? The incision looks great. Okay, well, I'll see you in 6 months. And I was like, at least watch me play the cello. I didn't even play. I just like sat in my seated position. And he's like, oh, that looks great. And I'm like, so what powers the left arm? Because I talk to my students all the time about it being kind of like a group effort. We want the big muscles to do the work. And, and everybody's, traps always overfire, and my scalenes are overfiring. Anyway, so and I said with pretty decent posture, not perfect, but much better than most. Anyway, and he's like, oh, just here. I'm like, is that like deltoids? Is that what you're saying? He's like, yeah, that's what holds your arm up. And I was like, seems like other things should do it. Anyway, he's like, and if you're feeling good in 6 months, just don't even waste your time. Come back in a year. Now, granted, I understand this come back in a year because he's got so many patients, and also that does seem to be the average time that people who have this particular thoracic outlet syndrome surgery experience the closest that we're going to get to like full manifestation of the results. Because the first 6 months are just a bumpy ride. And anybody who's had the surgery, who's watching this, who's further out, I mean, and I know that. Anyway, but like he just was not even willing to talk about this scapula thing. And he's like, well, I mean, SCM and trapezius feels kind of tight. And I'm like, it definitely does. I'm like, what would you do? And he's like, well, I think you just need a lot of massage. I'm like, okay. So, and don't get me wrong, massage is helpful, but like it's not covered by insurance. It hasn't been curative for me, and I've gone hard at massage. I've done it like 2 or 3 times a week for a couple weeks in a row just to see if that was like some extra degree of helpfulness, and it wasn't. And also, I completely ran out of money, right? Even if you go to a really inexpensive place, it's $80 a pop after tip, and you should be leaving a giant tip for your massage therapist, just so you know. Anyway, so I felt really kind of, I don't know about you, but especially with a very in-demand, like surgeon type person, I tend to feel like I just get freight trained. Just like they came in, they need to check this one thing, and in my case was the incision, and he just like ran right the fuck over me without any further curiosity. And I know maybe he's not necessarily a diagnostician for these other things, but it's just like, I don't know, if somebody came to me about the phrasing for a clarinet concerto. I am not a clarinetist, but I could certainly talk ideas about musicality and phrasing. Because like it's right, I'm in music. And I just feel like he should know at least enough about this to at least talk with me about it, but he just did not have the time, because I find it hard to believe that this guy doesn't know some stuff in there, right? That just seems crazy. Whatever. So then the next day, that's my day when I get up really early and I go see Dr. Lee, and he does all the, usual, I'm sure you all know, like, squeeze my hands and lift up and do this and walk and all these things. And I was like, and before, we get too far into this, I really need to talk with you about the scapula problem. He's like, it doesn't say anything about scapula here. Like, I need to talk to you about just this one thing. And I was like, it's just so not helpful and mean-spirited. And it was just so obvious that we were on the clock. And it's this conveyor belt feeling that just, it's more important to see patients with your eyes than to physically hear them and understand what's going on. And I think if I had longer with him, because I have no doubt a complex pain process going on. I have no doubt that some of what Caruso, my old PT, was talking about is true. I think my system is just conditioned for pain. So I'm feeling like a 6 right now, but the stimulus actually should probably be a 2 or a 3, right? But it's like, I go from no pain. I don't ever go from no pain, but I go from very little pain to like debilitating pain very quickly, and that doesn't seem appropriate considering that there's nothing acute. Anyway, but I kind of bullied him into looking at this, which again, I'm like, I've given him bad vibes. He's not looking at me with objectivity. He's just trying to humor me. In the end, he does end up ordering x-rays because he says what I really need are MRIs, but insurance will not do an MRI unless you have an x-ray first. So I just did that 2 days ago, waiting for the results on that. He seems to think, by the way, that my hip thing, he was saying it's SI joint, so sacroiliac joint, like over the top of your hip crest. And don't get me wrong, I've got all kinds of pain and tenderness in there. He thinks that that's the dysfunction. They gave me prednisone, which turned me into like a homicidal maniac who couldn't sleep for a day. It was a very high dose. I'm not on that. It did seem to help the pain though. The steroid didn't help this at all, but my hip pain definitely went down. I still feel spiny. It's my gut says that there's something going on that lower part of my back. Anyway, but so right now, I feel like I'm racing against the clock because October 3rd, we have an injection scheduled into my hip. Why did I see these pictures? Why did I have to look at the pictures of the needle that goes into my SI joint? I don't know. Looks like a chopstick, that thing. I mean, and I know it has to be long to get into that part, and then it has to be thick in order to have like tensile strength. I get that. But like that needle is unnecessarily horrifying. So I know, and I'm like so afraid of needles, and then this is like the year of just like getting stabbed with all kinds of scary needles. I guess you just get over that stuff when you're in pain though. You're just like, this is gonna hurt, but what else can I do? Hurt more? Anyway, so, but I want to know what the results of the x-ray, of the imaging are, and if that shows even a little bit of something, I'd like to get that MRI before, because if that is not the real solution, and in fact the steroids helped because it helped something in my spine, first of all, it's an expensive procedure, and it's also scary and painful, and also Parsons has to take the day off of work because they're gonna like numb the whole side of my body in order to do, no, but they're gonna make it so that my leg is basically not gonna function for the rest of that day. Anyway, so I'm just waiting, staring at my phone, like looking at it every now and again, but I just find it really troubling, and I'm curious if you are a physician, and I don't tend to get this with nurses as much, but physicians, I feel like you don't go to medical school and get trained not to listen, right? I mean, I know that like there's the whole like you hear, hoofbeats and you don't think zebras, you think horses, right? And there's like a lot of the Occam's razor bit, right? Like it's probably the most common thing, and all of that. But I just feel so under siege every time I go in to see anybody but my GP. And even her, I feel like maybe this is going to be the appointment where she turns against me, decides I'm like a hypochondriac or I'm hysterical. But it's like I just keep coming back for the same symptoms over and over again, and we try things and nothing helps. And I just feel like there is not a lot of people who are excited about diagnosis, who are not compelled by the mystery and the potential for really helping somebody. And I'm just wondering, when does that happen? When does that change happen? You go through medical school, which is difficult and gross and expensive, and there's a lot of attrition, right? I mean, organic chemistry cuts the herd down by 2/3 anyway. And so then the people who survive OChem and do it's prohibitive, and the schedule is crazy, and it breaks relationships, and it's hard. So you do all of this to become an expert in whatever it is. But then by the time I meet you, it almost seems like you're holding what I need behind your back. Like, sorry, I don't have time to apply my full expertise, intuition to this thing that is absolutely crippling your life. And that just seems a crazy place to operate from. And so I'm wondering, does it happen when you join a practice? Does it happen because of insurance companies and they're like quotas, or there's like diminishing returns? I'm just curious what's actually behind that and when it happens. And also, from who does this come? Like, does it come from administrators? Is it just kind of a culture that develops over time? Anyway, so, and the other thing, so two other little things. First of all, Lum was like, you should absolutely not be playing the cello, not even a little bit. So you see, it's sulking in the case right there. I was playing a little bit with some of my students. In fact, I was playing a lot with some of my advanced students. A lot is like 20 minutes, but still, to go from 0 to 20 is quite a lot. So none of that. I don't feel any better at all for doing it, and I feel like my hands turning soft, which is just gross to me. But also, I saw my physical therapist, Emily, and I said, so, I mean, he told me, you know, it was mostly my deltoids, and she's like, and she's trying not to like throw shade on this internationally like acclaimed physician, but she's like, no, it's like 7 different things. And when I went to sit and like, I'm trying to even fix it now, when I went to go very slowly up into even a remotely cello-y position, because we all know first position, like it's way up here. We all know, like you're all cellists. Sorry, first position is a very common position, and it's right up here like next to your face, which is kind of up higher than you would normally have. Like when we're in conversation, we might have our hands here, right? We can have, so it takes a lot of work to not scrunch up your shoulder and to be kind of down and back and neutral. Anyway, apparently when I get even just about here, my traps go and they just absolutely lock. And my SCM does too. And these are of course not things that you can relax on your own, like your jaw, right? Like you can kind of slacken your face and relax your jaw. You can kind of get into breathing and relaxing some of your gut muscles. But once these things get kind of like bound up, you relax them only by moving them into a different position where they're not active, or by removing the influence of gravity altogether, which is, I think, why lying down is so useful for me. Anyway, so she said like that my traps just fire like absolute crazy. And so I could be in the absolute right posture and still have the underlying mechanisms underneath just doing the same old crap. So we're going to, she said that she will do more massage on me. So that's, you know, 30 minutes, $30, which is still actually a lot of money to me because my student load, I've got 10 students, but like half of them are part-time. So that's tough. If I had 10 1-hour-a-week students, I would be pretty happy with that, combined with like writing income. But that's not how it is right now. And also, if you are a cello student watching this and you're curious about lessons with me, it is absolutely possible to have an extremely edifying lesson without your teacher playing in front of you. In fact, sometimes I feel like I might have been demonstrating too much for my students, and also I was playing over their sound. And so I just remember Ron Leonard, most of our lessons, he was kind of 20 or 30 feet away, arms crossed in consternation on a couch, just kind of, you know, observing. And while demonstration is sometimes useful, especially in the beginning, it's not really that necessary. And also sometimes it can actually hold you back because you are working with your ears to listen to the demonstration and your eyes to look at the teacher's technique, but you're not actually feeling that technique happen within your own body. So there's just a little tidbit there. If your teacher doesn't play with you a bunch, it's not necessarily your problem. Anyway, so that's the state of things. The pain is changing in my upper back. It's gone much more tingly, and it's gone like star-shaped explosions of tingling, shooting pain. Right? So now all my pain is on this back side. Everything up here is pretty good. I sometimes get very cold hands and cold feet. But I've been a person with cold extremities my whole life, so I don't know if I want to chalk that up. This has turned into a monster video. This is 20 minutes of video now. Anyway, but if anybody has any comments, questions, or advice on approaching doctors when you have layered and complex pain syndromes, I am here for it. I would love to hear about it, and I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, so I'll let you know when there's something to know. So these are probably not going to be weekly, but if 2 things happen 2 days in a row, I'll make 2 videos. Otherwise, hopefully the cello blog will turn back more into an actual cello blog as fall comes into swing. Anyway, thank you. Hope you're all well.